Good morning, and welcome to today's point. The image of the leaders of China, Russia, and North Korea standing together in Beijing has left the world holding its breath. This wasn't just a military parade. It was a powerful statement on the global stage. What does this gathering truly signify for the United States? And what realities must we confront? Today, we will break down the complex layers of this new geopolitical alignment. From the American perspective, the most immediate and profound feeling is one of heightened anxiety. This summit, even if not a formal trilateral alliance, solidifies an anti-Western axis that has been building for years. The visual of these three leaders together, representing nuclear powers with historical and ideological grievances, directly challenges the foundational principles of the U.S.-led liberal international order. For Washington, this isn't just a diplomatic formality. It's a symbolic declaration of a multipolar world where the United States is not the sole superpower. The first major concern is security. The event suggests increased military coordination, intelligence sharing, and arms cooperation. For instance, Russia could be sharing advanced military technology with China, while China, in turn, provides crucial economic lifelines to both Russia and North Korea. This could enable North Korea to bypass sanctions with greater ease, accelerating its weapons programs and escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula. In a worst-case scenario, this alliance could create a coordinated military front that forces the U.S. and its allies to respond to multiple flashpoints simultaneously from the South China Sea to Eastern Europe. This would stretch American military resources and alliances thin, creating vulnerabilities on a global scale. Secondly, there is the economic dimension. The U.S. has long relied on economic sanctions as its primary tool for coercion. This new alliance threatens to create a resilient, interconnected alternative economic system. The countries could increase trade in their own currencies, circumventing the U.S. dollar and the international financial system. This would significantly reduce the effectiveness of American sanctions and weaken the very economic leverage that has defined U.S. foreign policy for decades. The prospect of a de-dollarized bloc operating outside of international financial oversight is a genuine threat to American economic stability and global influence. Finally, the gathering sends a message to American allies. They are now faced with a starker choice: align with the U.S., or find a path of neutrality that could leave them vulnerable. The unity displayed in Beijing could sow doubt among U.S. partners and force them to reassess their own security and economic relationships, potentially leading to a fragmentation of the Western alliance. The U.S. must now work even harder to reassure its allies of its commitment and to demonstrate the continued strength and viability of its partnerships. Now, let's look at this from the perspective of the participating nations. For them, this gathering is not a declaration of aggression. It's a necessary step toward balancing what they see as a relentless, overbearing American hegemony. This is their counter-narrative, and it's built on a foundation of shared grievances and mutual interests. For China, the event is a public declaration of its rise as a great power. President Xi Jinping sees the U.S. strategy of containment as a direct attempt to limit China's economic and political growth. By standing with Russia and North Korea, China signals that it has its own sphere of influence and its own set of rules. This is about establishing a multipolar world where power is distributed among several major players, not just concentrated in Washington. The alliance provides China with leverage in its disputes over Taiwan and the South China Sea, and it strengthens its position as the leader of a growing anti-U.S. coalition. For Russia, the partnership is an act of defiance against what it considers NATO's eastward expansion and the Western sanctions regime. President Putin sees the U.S. and Europe as existential threats, and this alliance is a way to break out of its diplomatic isolation. By providing military and technological support to China and North Korea, Russia gains crucial allies who are willing to challenge the U.S. without hesitation. This provides Russia with a strategic depth and economic alternatives that it desperately needs to survive under Western pressure. For Russia, the gathering is a powerful symbol of its return to great power status. allied with countries that respect its sovereignty and share its disdain for Western interventionism. And for North Korea, this is a massive diplomatic and economic victory. After years of isolation and crippling sanctions, Kim Jong-un's presence on the world stage alongside two of the world's most powerful leaders provides him with an unprecedented level of legitimacy. He can now use this newfound solidarity to demand more economic aid and military technology directly from both China and Russia. From Pyongyang's perspective, this is not an act of defiance. It is an act of survival. It's a way to break free from the stranglehold of U.S. sanctions and to secure the resources needed to continue its nuclear program and ensure the regime's stability. Together, these nations share a belief that the U.S.-led order is outdated and unjust. They view American human rights lectures and democratic interventions as thinly veiled excuses for geopolitical manipulation. This shared ideology and mutual distrust of the West form the glue of this new, formidable alliance. The convergence of these three nations, driven by both shared interests and mutual distrust of the West, creates a daunting challenge for American foreign policy. We are not just witnessing a diplomatic event, we are observing the potential birth of a new era of global power dynamics. The most significant implication is the potential for a new Cold War, yet this time with a more complex and interconnected battlefield. In the old Cold War, the world was largely divided into two blocks, the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Today's world is far more fragmented. China is not a replica of the Soviet Union. It is an economic giant deeply integrated into the global economy, making simple containment strategies nearly impossible. Russia, while militarily powerful, is economically struggling, and North Korea remains a volatile, unpredictable variable. This complexity means that a simple, zero-sum approach will not work. The U.S. cannot simply choose sides. It must navigate a world where its adversaries are also its trade partners, and where global stability hinges on their interconnectedness. The U.S. faces a profound diplomatic dilemma. Should it double down on its strategy of containment and pressure, viewing this alliance as a direct threat that must be met with overwhelming force and sanctions? This approach risks further escalation, pushing these nations closer together and potentially leading to military confrontation. Or should it pursue a path of engagement, seeking common ground on issues like climate change and nuclear non-proliferation, in hopes of creating a framework for cooperation? This approach risks being perceived as weak and could be exploited by adversaries seeking to undermine American credibility. This geopolitical shift also has significant implications for international institutions. Organizations like the United Nations, the World Bank, and the IMF were designed for a post-World War II world dominated by Western powers. This new alliance threatens to bypass or even challenge these institutions, creating parallel systems that reflect their own values and interests. This could lead to a fragmentation of global governance, making it far more difficult to address global challenges that require collective action. The path forward is filled with uncertainty. The U.S. must grapple with the reality that its adversaries are no longer isolated, but are now part of a loose but powerful coalition. It must find a way to protect its interests and uphold its values without pushing the world into a dangerous and destructive conflict. We've seen the rising anxieties from Washington, the counter-narrative of a multipolar world from Beijing, and the profound implications for our global order. This new reality demands more than just a firm stance. It requires strategic wisdom and diplomatic agility. So, here is my final question for you, the viewers. As we stand at this new crossroads, with old alliances shifting and new ones forming, how should the United States navigate this complex reality? What is the right balance between confrontation and cooperation, and how can we secure peace in an increasingly fragmented world?